Hello from Prague.
Hello and welcome. We are live from the capital city of the Czech Republic, which is Prague, known for its incredible spires and amazing architecture, but from now on shall be known and renowned for the Gran Turismo World Series Round 2, as we have some of the best sim racers in the world battling it out to be on top. Why don't we find out who that's going to be as we kick off Round 2 of the Manufacturers' Cup. this incredible city, and we're so glad that you're here to join us, as is this wonderful crowd of beautiful people as well. Give it up for yourselves. Come on, let's give it up for the crowd. Now, if you joined us in Montreal, you know a little bit about how this all goes down, but we thought we'd just give you a quick little recap of the competition format. The Manufacturers' Cup features 12 teams of 3 drivers. These teams were selected from the 2024 Online Series ranking. There's 1 player per team from each of 3 global regions: Americas, EMEA, and Asia-Oceania. 1 driver per team will race in each round, then all 3 will compete together at the World Finals at the end of the year. In the qualifying time trial, each driver will set a time over 1 attack lap. The results determine the grid position for the Grand Final race. In this Grand Final, 1 driver per team will race for World Series points. So, what's at stake? Well, only the top 6 teams score points. That, when combined with the points from round 1 in Canada, will give us the current series ranking. But only 1 team will be crowned winner of round 2 of the Manufacturers' Cup.
Absolutely amazing. What a crowd we have got here in Prague. Amazing atmosphere. And what a beautiful city as well, Jimmy. What a place to be.
Yeah, we spent most of the yesterday actually walking around, taking the sights, getting quite sunburned as well. What an amazing place. Beautiful crowd here as well. Really looking forward to getting into this one, Tom.
Yeah, looking forward to continuing our story in the Gran Turismo World Series, because if you watch Montreal, then you'll know it was an absolute corker in both the Manufacturers' Cup and the Nations' Cup. More on that in a few moments' time. Let's have a look, though, at this, because there's your chance, as we're live now, to get 2 million credits in-game on GT7. Have a look at this and see how you can get involved.
Don't forget that you can get involved with the World Series inside Gran Turismo 7. This is with the bonus campaign. Just click on the Predict the Winner banner of the GT7 World Map, and that's going to give you, the players, the chance to win 1 million credits for each of the Nations Cup and the Manufacturers' Cup. Don't forget you can enter and vote right up until the start of each Grand Final. And if that's not enticing enough, watch the Manufacturers' Cup in-game and you're going to receive the Genesis X Grand Racer Vision Gran Turismo concept. If you want to see how you compare to our superstar Manufacturers' Cup competitors, you can head on now to a new time trial in Gran Turismo 7 that's going to mirror the Manufacturers' Cup qualifying here in Prague. The competition duration and car category is on screen now, and it's going to take place at the Red Bull Ring.
My only regret, Jimmy, is that I didn't set my PlayStation up to watch this in-game while we're doing it, because I could use those credits in those cars, to be honest.
You imagine multitasking that, just sitting there like, oh, cheers guys, great to see you, but I'm going to just sit down and get some more credits. But yeah, really awesome to be involved in those time trials, to directly compare yourself to the guys out there who are putting on the show for us. And if you're quick, maybe you'll be here next time. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, you never know what may happen. Now, if you watched Montreal a few weeks ago when we kicked off the Gran Turismo World Series, you'll know that it was an absolute corker. As I said earlier on, brilliant racing in both the Manufacturers' Cup and the Nations' Cup. However, if you did miss it, we'll forgive you just this once, but have a look at this and see what happened.
Manufacturers' Cup at Montreal. It was Igor Fraga and Team Lexus who lead the way from Sasaki in the Porsche and Gallo in the Honda. These guys were just completely glued together for the first half of the race. It actually allowed a little bit, Igor Fraga, to make a little bit of a gap in that Lexus.
Yeah, nicely done for Igor Fraga. He steamed off into the distance with Sasaki in the Porsche and Gallo in the Honda side by side at this stage of the race. This is before the first pit stops began to take place. We saw a divergence in strategy. Later on, Sasaki had to fight his way back through the field. You can see him here side by side with Robbie Heck through the CRS, and his next target would be Valerio Gallo for that final place on the podium once the strategies had begun to work out. Fraga, meanwhile, was out in front with a clear shot of victory as he came through the final corner to take a commanding win for Team Lexus in Montreal. Gallo in second, but it was a very close run to the line with Takuma Sasaki in third place. Nose to tail, side by side racing between those 2 drivers. But it was then Igor Fraga who takes first blood in the opening round of the season. He is on the podium along with Gallo for Honda and Sasaki for Porsche. And the point standings, of course, reflecting the race results in the Manufacturers' Cup. So Lexus lead 1 point ahead of Honda, 2 points ahead of Porsche, etc., etc. As you can see, 7th downwards, no points on the board. They've got to really try and turn their fortunes around for round 2.
I tell you what, I was surprised by Team Subaru in that last round. Very, very quick team usually, but so far, not scoring. But as you say, Tom, still time to turn it around, but one round over already.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing what is going to happen here tonight. And let's get straight into the action, shall we, for the Manufacturers' Cup, because it's going to be an absolute barnstormer, especially as we're at the Red Bull Ring. I love this track. It always produces great racing, Jimmy.
I mean, what a circuit, the Red Bull Ring, and so many great places to overtake as well. As you can see from our pictures just there, maybe not ideal conditions for the drivers, wet at the moment, but looking at our track map there, T3, great place to overtake. If you watch a certain series with Formula in front of it, you might have seen a few overtake attempts there. T4 as well, great place to do it. And T6, deceptively late apex there. But slipstreaming, track position, going to be very important around this circuit.
You can see this is the qualifying time trial, so it's a one-lap attack for the drivers. They go out, they get one warm-up lap, one flying lap, and that's them done. So any mistakes will be punished. And you can see as well how difficult this circuit is going to be, especially into the likes of turn 3, turn 4, big braking zones, lots of undulation at this circuit as well. And keen to see what is going to happen, especially for that one-lap qualifier. You know, Jimmy, you've done a lot of qualifying laps, especially over the course of this year.
Yeah.
And it's difficult, isn't it, when you make a mistake and you know that you're going to be punished for it?
Yeah, really, it's about getting your head down here. I mean, you're in front of a big audience. There's a lot of pressure from us. We're shouting over the top of your lap. We've got the crowd here as well, cameras, the lights. To try and block all that out, it's a real challenge. And the drivers who can do that are the ones that are going to do best here today, obviously.
Well, there's a possibility of inclement weather going into the race as well, which is just something we like to spice things up a little bit. How do you think qualifying is going to affect that then? If we go into this session with the one-lap attack, you can see the drivers here. You've got Coque Lopez, Mateo Estevez, Hengse, Fenton, a few new drivers in the mix there. What are we expecting for this?
I mean, this is where the drivers with the experience are really going to show that. Coque Lopez, I mean, he's been around as long as I have, long time. And he knows pretty much every permutation of how the GT simulator works. So watch out for him. He'll be good here, I think, as well. But new names in there as well. We've got Penko, we've got Badimo from the UK, finally. UK and Fenton finally being represented, Tom. Second while ago for AMG and Ferrari. But yeah, I mean, definitely look out for those old hands here.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, hasn't it? You've got a couple of former champions and then former Nations Cup champions, reigning champions, in fact, Paul Ura and Jose Serrano in the mix, just to make things that little bit interesting, including also this man, Coque Lopez, lining up for Lexus. They took the victory last time out when we were in Montreal. Can they make it 2 from 2? Well, qualifying is their first opportunity to lay down the gauntlet. But as we know, conditions not going to be that easy for the drivers in qualifying and, in theory, in the race as well. So we're getting ready to go for this one-lap qualifying attack session. And we will get ready to go and see what is about to happen as the drivers are lined up. What's going through your mind at this point here, Jimmy?
Usually not a lot, to be honest. I mean, it depends how sort of locked in you are. If you're really focused, all you're thinking about right now is like, okay, right, T1, where do I brake for that in the wet? And that's really about it. But maybe if you're a bit nervous, I mean, these headphones are pretty decent, these guys wear, but sometimes the noise creeps in a little bit, and sometimes that pressure does start to mount. So, especially for people like a Fenton there in the AMG Mercedes. This is his first time here, first time experiencing this sort of pressure. So the important thing is to just try and put that out of your head as best you can and just focus on the task that's coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as we said, 12 different manufacturers, 12 different drivers on the grid here for this one. And, of course, that's a bit of a divergence to what you'll see in the Nations Cup later on. We've got the same 12 drivers in the Nations over the course of the season, whereas the 12 drivers that we had in Montreal a few weeks ago, completely different to the ones that we've got here. One outlier that we should mention, by the way, is Mateo Estevez. He should have been in Montreal, but wasn't able to travel. So he was replaced by Valerio Gallo. So that's why Mateo is over here driving for Honda instead of Valerio. Looking forward to seeing what the Argentine driver is going to do. Of course, part of the Nations Cup, the Manufacturers' Cup champions of last year, Team Nissan.
Yeah, exactly. So someone who knows how to win here. It's always good to have someone there. But as we say that, our qualifying session gets underway at a very wet Red Bull Ring. And every driver so far opting for that wet compound attire. It's Penko out on circuit first for Team Audi. Mid-engine car around here. Good for rotation, but that's not really what you want when it's super wet. Very easy to over-rotate and spin the car. So he'll be the one setting down the gauntlet for the rest of the drivers as the others watch on keenly. And there is, I say, a slight advantage maybe to sort of going last here, because you get to sort of watch what everyone else is doing, get an idea of what line's going to work, what line isn't going to work. But also, I mean, you have to wait the longest, so those nerves can creep in a bit.
Yeah, you can see that those 10 minutes are going to be going by very, very slowly indeed. So there's a lot of time for them to just sit here waiting to go out on track. Daniel Penko for Audi will be the first driver out on circuit, ready to start his flying lap. There is Mohamed Badima, the Briton. He will be driving for Ferrari. Great to see them back in the Manufacturers' Cup. We'll get an onboard look at the lap in a few moments' time for our drivers as we see Kylian Drumont and also Jose Serrano just before watching on. And now we look here at Penko ready to line himself up for his flying lap, just making his way through this second sector. Mid sort of speed corners through here, but it's a bit of a circuit of two halves, as we said, because you've got really stop-starty stuff, especially as you go into turn 3 and turn 4, and then it opens up a little bit in the latter part of this lap.
Yeah, ideally you want to rock it. you want a car that's fast down the straights here and good on the brakes. There is, as you say, Tom, that mid-sector, all about that mid-speed, all about carrying that mid-corner speed and apex speed. But if you can't do that, of course, you can make it up with the right foot, the talent pedal, I like to call that. As we come on to our first flying lap now, Penko then, the Spanish driver, using all the circuit and a bit more there on the way into T1. Got to be very careful on the track limits here. They're very strict here and they're automatically enforced by Gran Turismo. So coming up towards T2 now, although not really a corner, and up to T3, the first big heavy braking zone on the circuit. And seems nice and comfy so far, but no indication where he is compared to others, as he is the first driver on circuit.
Braking zone of turn 3, going to get the apex there. Nicely done for Daniel Penko. Is he leaving any more time on the table? Being very smooth and progressive on the throttle. You can see the standing water there just on the left-hand side of the circuit as we were looking at it. We now ride on board with Penko, and this is going to seem like an absolute eternity as he heads down into turn 4, up to 5th gear, steady on the brakes, down into first. You can see the rear just trying to snap away from him ever so slightly on the entry to the corner, but gets it rotated okay.
Yeah, just trying to V off the corner there a bit, trying to make sure he's not carrying too much speed mid-corner. The car sliding there under throttle, so far from planted is this Audi as we come now around T6. Very long, goes on forever and ever. You can see Penko there just playing with that throttle pedal, trying to get the car to rotate, but not too much. Second half of the lap now. Again, same story. Really easy to get the car sideways through here, and just coming off the racing line ever so slightly there, trying to avoid that rubbered up line, trying to avoid the slippery surface, and trying to search for grip.
Other drivers are out on their flying laps at the moment, just to remind you, by the way, so they'll be going about sort of 20 seconds behind there and thereabouts over the course of this one. So once Penko goes over the line, then we'll get the next time on the board. What is Penko's benchmark time going to be? Is he out of the final corner across the timing line in the Audi as he comes to break the beam? It's a 1:39.209, but there are faster sector times coming in. Ryan DeRouche looking pretty handy in the second sector. Le Boutelet also in the BMW, not looking too far away.
Yeah, been a while since we've seen Ryan DeRouche at one of his events. Welcome back, Ryan. Great to have you here in the Corvette there. Let's see what sort of time he can put on the table. It's a decent middle sector, as Tom said. He goes fast, just a 38.9 there from the Corvette driver.
0.3 of a second quicker than Penko as well. Nicely done there for him. What about Nico Romero? We know that Genesis are pretty handy. They got a podium, if you remember, in the World Finals in Barcelona last year. Romero, no stranger to the Gran Turismo World Series and no stranger to the pressure. Comes out of the final corner. He's had personal best sector times. Is it going to be enough, though, to depose them? Not quite. Splits the two of DeRouche and Penko for now. What about Badima then in his first ever Gran Turismo World Series event?
Yeah, his middle sector was rapid. By far the fastest. That Ferrari very, very quick, it seems, in the corners. How is it on the straights, though? Drive to the line for Mohamed Badima, and easily pole position there for Badima and for Ferrari. Nearly a second clear of Ryan DeRouche, and you may not know him, but that guy is absolutely rapid. Just an early statement there from Ferrari.
Le Boutelet was looking pretty handy in that first sector, but compared to the lap time of Badima, I wonder if there's going to be a bit left on the table here. Out of the final corner comes Le Boutelet as he comes to the timing line. He goes second quickest, so into the 38s. Track getting quicker, drivers getting a bit more confidence seeing the reference times, knowing that they can take the risks. Now, we know the Subaru doesn't have particularly brilliant straight line speed. Good mechanical grip, though, in the corners, and if there's anybody that can exploit the performance, it's the man behind the wheel, Kylian Drumont, the Frenchman, out of the final corner and across the timing line he is about to come. Is it going to be anything to upset the top three as he takes the checkered flag?
No, I think he's starting his lap now,
yeah.
Tom, so he's part of a second group there.
He is right.
Yeah, so it's all right, it's still exciting we're talking about. But you know what, Badima, I was talking to him earlier on, and he was saying, our car is rapid in the wet conditions. I mean, that's a pretty clear statement there for Team Ferrari, who I think at these events in the Manufacturers' Cup, they've never really shined, have they, Ferrari? This might be their chance to do so.
A little bit down in that first sector, though, into turn 3, slightly deep on the apex of there, and a snap of oversteer. Now he's going to carry that mistake all the way down this back straight into the next braking zone.
You can hear the car just trying to scramble for grip out the corner. Now watch his line down into T4 here. So just braking offline right on the inside, then going out towards the traditional line. Oh, veering the corner off there, just getting the car rotated. That was some insane rotation there from Kylian Drumont. I thought he was going to spin the thing, just about managed to keep the thing going. Now watch this line through T6, goes out onto the curb usually, trying to avoid that, but they're finding grip out there, using those marbles that usually you try and avoid, but in the wet they provide the grip, so looking for that grip out there. How's the sector time? Half a second down nearly, Tom.
Yeah, not good at all there for Drumont. The straight line speed, as we know of that Subaru, as I said earlier on, has been its Achilles heel. Not that it'll matter too much, but just not finding the time is Kylian Drumont as he comes through that penalty zone. That's where any penalties will be served in the race. 2 corners now remaining for Drumont. He's going to have the mother and father of all final couple of corners as he tries to close up onto the gaps that are in front of him. Half a second away would put him on the front row of the grid, actually, as a matter of fact, but a slip and a slide like that out of the final corner will not be aiding his charge. Where does Drumont go? It is second fastest, so it's the front row of the grid provisionally for the Frenchman. An
impressive effort, but nowhere near our current pole sitter, Ferrari and Budima. So here's Jose Serrano. We know how quick he is, of course, second last time out in the Nations Cup race. Here in the Manufacturers' Cup for Team Toyota, what can he do comes to start-finish line? It's not going to challenge the leader, and it's only good enough for P4 for Serrano. I mean, given his pace, he'll be upset at that. Pole Euro, though, coming to the line. Yeah,
he's had a bit of an interesting couple of sectors there as Pole Euro, not particularly brilliant in Sector 2, so I don't know if this is going to be anything to write home about for the Spaniard, the reigning Nations Cup champion. You can hear him spinning up the tyres as he came out of the final corner. Comes to the checkered flag, it's 4th fastest, so gets himself ahead of Toyota, Darouche, Romero and Penko for the time being. Now, what about Daniel Fenton? New name in the Gran Turismo World Series. It's his debut event here on the international stage, and what is he going to be able to do with that Mercedes AMG? A couple of years ago, that was the car to have. It was winning races left, right and centre, but they've been in a bit of a lean spell over the last couple of years, but Fenton's going up into 2nd fastest, so it's the 2 Brits, 1 and 2.
Yeah, finally. Well, I say 2 Brits, it's Ferrari and AMG, isn't it, really? But we can have our own little victories here. Hense here, the Hungarian driver for Team Porsche. These guys are always quick. Porsche, always a competitive brand here in the Manufacturers' Cup. How about here today in the Red Bull Ring? Comes across the start-finish line to start his lap. Fantastic, great. They've all been released in a different order today, it seems.
But the thing is, Hense will know that the grip is there because he's just seen 9 other drivers go out there and do it, and that's going to be a psychological advantage.
Do you know where the time has been so far, Tom? It's that last sector. Budima at the moment is about 4 tenths faster than anyone in that last sector, the last 30 seconds of the laps. That's where the pace is. So 10th and a bit down there. And yeah, you can see that, Tom, as you say there, as you gesture to me there, really struggling with getting the car stably slowed down. I mean, these guys are really on the ragged edge here. They don't run any traction control in this in the wet. They like to have the control, but it shows the car is not planted by any stretch of imagination, and a penalty there for Estevez.
That means he's going to be at the back of the grid, unfortunately, for the Argentine driver, so pressure has got to him a little bit. You see a snap of oversteer there from Hense on the exit of turn 4. Coming through this middle sector, we've seen drivers going for wider lines using those marbles. Hense there just trying to get the car rotated, despite the fact that the 911 is traditionally a rear-engine car. It's more mid-engined in this sort of Group 3 racing layout, but that does give a bit of a pendulum effect and can be a bit of a hindrance, especially in tricky conditions. We saw that with Audi not being on the pace that they wanted to be.
Yeah, watch this last sector. So currently 2 and a bit tenths down on Budima in the 458 Ferrari. Let's see if that gap goes up or goes down. Last couple of corners, it looks nice and tidy. It looks good through there. It doesn't look like there's any time being lost. Comes around the last corner. How's the exit? Nice and smooth, lovely. So it's a drive to the line there for Hense, the Hungarian driver. What's the time going to be? Oh, it's P2, a great lap there for Hense and Team Porsche. Second place, only 2 tenths down. Estevez there, unfortunately, will be last at this straight with the penalty he's serving at the moment.
With Hense, it was his 2nd sector where he really gained time actually through there. He was a couple of tenths of a second quicker than the likes of Romero, Serrano, who were all further down the order. There is Estevez, that penalty that he has served, and he is going to be, well, very, very sad indeed, as I'm sure you can imagine, for the Honda driver. Only Coque Lopez then who'll be able to get a representative time on the board, because Estevez's lap will be cancelled courtesy of that penalty. Out of the final corner comes the Argentine, and he is going to have a lot of work to do as he takes the checkered flag, but as we know, will start from the very back of the field. Disappointment there for him, and you can see him banging the steering wheel in frustration. Now, all eyes on Coque Lopez in the car that won a few weeks ago in Montreal.
Pace isn't there, Tom. A second down in the middle of the sector. You're not going to find that in the last two corners unless you grow wings, basically, which I think is appropriate for the circuit we're at here. As we come now down to the last couple of corners, only Coque Lopez has a possibility of taking Ferrari off pole position through the second to last corner, sideways off there. Doesn't look good, Tom.
Yeah, balance of the car seems to be off there for Coque. He's just not able to get the power down where he wants to. You can see him fighting for control as he's coming through the big traction zones, and that's where he's losing the time. Coque Lopez, oh, goodness me, it's going to be 11th on the grid, unfortunately, for the Spaniard. Not a lap time for the reigning Nations Cup champion to write home about, but it is Mohamed Badima and Ferrari who starts on pole position. His debut event for the Briton, and it's right at the head of field from Hengste then. Looking forward to seeing what Benjamin Hengste, the Hungarian, in the Porsche is going to do, and nice to see the 911 back up at the sharp end of the field as well.
Yeah, what an amazing qualifying session there for Badima and for Ferrari. We've never seen them on pole here. So basically, completely unknown driver turns up in a brand that has never been at the sharp end in Manufacturers' Cup and goes, yeah, you're right, I'll just go pole by 3 temps, easy. Don't worry about it, not bothered.
Well, I first met Mohamed last year. I did an event for PlayStation right at the end of December, and he was too young to compete in the Gran Turismo World Series. That's why he hasn't been here. Now he's turned 18 years old. He's ready to go, and well, he's fresh out the oven. You can see he's gone and stuck it right at the sharp end of the field. Let's have a look at some highlights then from that qualification session, shall we? And just remind you what happened over the course of that one, because it was a bit frantic and a bit fast. You saw Badima got himself into pole position, but the other Briton, Daniel Fenton, in the Mercedes AMG, came around the final corner, and it was a very handy lap time from him also in his debut event.
I think he could have maybe gone a bit closer there, if not for that little wiggle out of the last corner. It's a big traction zone, that very important. Hensey there was the only driver and the only brand with Porsche to get anywhere near Ferrari at the front. 3 tenths per second, but still 3 tenths at a circuit like this and an event like this is night and day, Tom.
Absolutely. This is Badima's lap time a little bit earlier on in the session, as we saw from the young Briton. Out of the final corner he came across the timeline. That Ferrari 458, a little bit long in the tooth in terms of its age relative to some of the other cars on the grid, but certainly not slow in terms of its performance. You see a round of applause there for Mateo Estevez, who, as we know, will be sick as a parrot after having his lap time removed for that penalty. There is Badima, though. Pole position for him ahead of Benjamin Hengste in the Porsche. Then it's Britain's Daniel Fenton in the Mercedes AMG ahead of the former champion Kylian Drumont for Subaru, then Le Boutelet for BMW, Paul Ura for Mazda completing the top 6.
I don't know if Coque made a mistake there, but his time was that bad that even with a penalty, Estevez was able to, I guess, beat him to not being last. But 2 drivers there who I wouldn't usually put down the back of the field, so watch for them during the race.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of work for some drivers to do. Delight for some, disappointment for others. That's what happens, especially in single-lap qualifying. It does happen to punish mistakes. You know, we saw that there. Coque Lopez. When was the last time you saw him starting down in 12th on the grid?
Well, you know what? Always watch out for Coque Consistency Lopez. He's always there, always come back through the field. His racecraft is, I think, probably one of the best here. So he'll be starting back of the field. He'll be upset of that, but watch him. He'll come forward.
Anyway, let's have a look, shall we, at the season format for this year. You can see the Nations Cup and the Manufacturers' Cup. We've got 12 drivers in the Nations Cup and 12 teams in the Manufacturers' Cup. 12 drivers in the Nations will go all the way over the course of this year, so the same in Montreal, Prague, Tokyo, and at our World Finals. The 12 teams will have 3 different sets of drivers at each of the events. Then all 3 of them will come together as part of their team for the World Finals. So 3 drivers for Mercedes AMG, 3 drivers for Porsche, and so on and so forth. And all of them in both the Nations and the Manufacturers' Cup will accumulate points that will run into the World Finals. So there is a lot more pressure now on these drivers' shoulders as we get ready to head later on this year into the World Finals at the beginning of December. It's going to be hugely exciting to see what happens and see who can soak up the pressure.
We can now exclusively reveal the location for the 2024 Gran Turismo World Series Finals. And we're going to Amsterdam. Yeah, from the 6th to the 8th of December, our racers will meet for the final time at the Theatre Amsterdam for 3 days of intense competition. The Toyota GR GT Cup Finals are going to be on Friday, the Manufacturers' Cup featuring all team drivers on Saturday, and then the Nations Cup on Sunday. Ticket information and further information will appear soon on GranTurismo.com and GT Socials. We hope to see you there.
Amsterdam for the World Finals. I fancy a bit of that, you know?
Yeah, we had a great crowd there last year. I mean, not as good as our Czech crowd here, of course, today. But yeah, really looking forward to going back there again, for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting. Don't forget, of course, that it's not only the Manufacturers' Cup that's happening. We've got the Nations' Cup here, beautifully displayed on this lovely graphic below me. Yeah, I feel like the weatherman. Yeah, you know, sunny conditions here. But also, yeah, the Nations' Cup, as we said, will be coming up later on here tonight. So be sure to tune in for that, because I'm sure that it will be as exciting as always. Let's just remind you of the starting grid then, shall we? For the Manufacturers' Cup, what's happening here and now? Mohamed Badima for Britain and for Ferrari will line up at the head of the field, ahead of Benjamin Hengsey in the Porsche. Then you've got Daniel Fenton in the Mercedes-AMG ahead of Kylian Drumont. So an interesting top four there. What do you reckon? Who are your outliers? Who are you keeping an eye on, JB?
I mean, I'm watching Jose Serrano. 7th at the moment for Team Toyota. Team Toyota have always been a fast team here in the Manufacturers' Cup. And it's odd to see them outside the top 6. So only just so P7. But I'm obviously keeping an eye on Badima. He did say to me earlier the car is quick in the wet, maybe not so much in the dry. So I guess we'll see what happens.
Well, we certainly will. Anyway, it is time then to introduce our drivers in a few moments' time, and looking forward to meeting them and introducing them to you as well if it's your first time watching the Gran Turismo World Series. Of course, welcome along. It's great to have at your company. I mean, we've been here for what, 6-7 years now?
I don't even know anymore.
It's been a long time. Has been a while. Anyway, let's get ready then, shall we, and introduce our 12 drivers in the Manufacturers' Cup. So making the way onto stage then for Team Audi, the Spaniard Daniel Penco makes his way down onto the floor here in Prague. We first saw him in the Toyota Gazoo Racing GT Cup back in Barcelona in 2023. And a rapturous reception here in the Czech Republic. Next up, please give it your all for Randy Root. Driving for Team Chevrolet, the Frenchman, part of the Manufacturers' Cup championship winning team for Toyota back in 2019 as he makes his return onto the international stage. Let's see what the Frenchman is going to be able to do here in Prague. Genesis finished on the podium at the back end of 2023. This man here, Nico Romero, we tried to go a couple of places better at the end of this season. Let's see whether the Spaniard is going to be able to bring the fight to the front here tonight. We just saw him setting the fastest time in qualifying in his debut event in the Gran Turismo World Series. Mohamed Badima is driving for Ferrari. And let's see what he is going to be able to do, the young Briton, from pole position. Thomas Laboutelet, driving for Team BMW, makes his way onto the stage. The Frenchman competed in the Nations' Cup and the Manufacturers' Cup in 2023. Also got pole position back in the Amsterdam World Series event for BMW last year, so certainly don't count him out. Frenchman Kylian Drumont is the Manufacturers' Cup champion in 2022 with Subaru, also the Olympic Esports champion of 2023 as well. Very talented young Frenchman. He lines up for Team Subaru. Jose Serrano, the Spaniard, will line up for Team Toyota. He's the Nations' Cup champion of 2023 as part of Team Spain. And also the EMEA Regional champion for the online season this year as well. Count him out at your peril. Also part of that Spanish Nations Cup championship winning lineup was Paul Ura. He lines up for Team Mazda. Paul making his way onto the stage here tonight. All smiles. And we'll be hoping to add to their podium tally. Daniel Fenton, the Briton, it's his debut event and he lines up for Mercedes-AMG. Great qualifying for him, sees him lining up at the head of the second row of the grid. What can he do from there? Can he bring Mercedes' fight back to the front here tonight? Benjamin Hengsey, the Hungarian, will line up with Team Porsche. It's his first Gran Turismo World Series event. We did see him last year in the Olympic Esports Series, so he knows his competitors well. And Porsche starting also on the front row of the grid. Great lap time for him. Will it translate into a podium finish tonight? Matteo Estevez, a mistake in qualifying for him, but he is the Manufacturers' Cup champion with Nissan last year. For 2024, he's moved over to Team Honda. What can the Argentine do as he makes his way onto the stage here in Prague? And last but not least, Coque Lopez, the Spaniard, a 2 times Nations Cup champion and the Manufacturers' Cup champion in 2021 with Team Toyota. He's now moved over to Lexus for 2024. They won the debut World Series event in Montreal a few weeks ago. Can they make it 2 from 2 here tonight? And now, ladies and gentlemen, we ask you please to stand if you are able for the national anthem of our host nation here in the Czech Republic. The national anthem of the Czech Republic plays out to our host nation here as we get ready to go racing in Prague for the Gran Turismo World Series in the Manufacturers' Cup. Drivers will get themselves ready and in position, and we'll be chatting to our pole sitter, Mohamed Badima, in a few moments' time as well. Jimmy Broadbent, I tell you what, Mohamed Badima comes in, absolutely amazing performance for him, but he's not half put a target on his back going into this race, is he?
Yeah, I mean, you're saying, oh, guys, I'm pretty quick, but please leave me alone. It's not going to happen. I mean, we know T3 here, for example, the first big proper break here at the Red Bull Ring. You're basically just hoping there's no one spearing up the inside line there. But these guys have all raced together online plenty. They all know what to expect from each other. But, of course, it's always a little bit different in live events, isn't it? Always a little bit more frantic. And
what about Benjamin Engse as well? Because we saw Porsche really strong with Takuma Sasaki a few weeks ago in Montreal, getting a podium. They've shown consistent pace in the dry and now in the wet.
I mean, that's the important thing, really. It's not really your single event pace. It's all about having a good run all the way through the Manufacturers' Cup. So it doesn't matter if you're fast at one race, you've got to do it everywhere. So Porsche right now, as you say, in a good position. Second is not a bad place to be. Obviously, you want to be first, but it's still not a bad place to be for picking up points.
Absolutely. Well, let's get ready then, shall we, to go racing. But first of all, we'll chat to our pole sitter, Mohamed Badima. He is down talking to Jules.
Mohamed, I mean, okay, right, there's a lot of things to unpack here. First of all, my first question has to be, were you just waiting for your, 18th birthday to come around to just come here and just take pole from all these guys?
Yeah, it's been a while. I've been competing in the online series at home, and yeah, it just was not of the eligible age to qualify, but thankfully now that it's my first event, and honestly, I'm really shocked I was able to pull that off.
No, come on. No, come on, have some confidence. I mean, there's a lot of new faces here as well. What's it been like, from playing online at home to suddenly sitting up there in that chair? Because it's a really big switch.
I was honestly really nervous. I sat down to do the qualifying lap, and when I went through turn 1, I was just really I was almost shaking. But then after I went through the middle sector, and then I felt more comfortable with the car, I felt more comfortable with the setup as well. And I was like, okay, this could happen. So yeah, I thought take it easy in the last corner, and surprisingly it was fast. So
I mean, it's been pretty good. And what's it been like, meeting all the drivers who you've been watching?
It's been unreal because obviously when I was playing the game since I was young, watching these guys race, and I was always wanted to be like them. And then meeting them in the flesh, it's an amazing experience because they're all so kind as well.
Yeah, it's a really Really nice community. Well, look, you've obviously got the chops and you've got the skill, you know, to get on pole, which means you can win it. He's going to do all right. What do you reckon? Yeah. Go on. We're going to throw it back to Tom and Jimmy. Good luck on that one.
Having nice to hear from Jules
So good,
as
well done.
well. Thank you so much to catching up with those drivers. I tell you what, Javi Padin did not make me smile in that one because he said, I practiced when I was young. He's only just out of short trousers, for crying out loud.
It's even worse. Like, I'm 33 now, and these kids are so fast. The ego destroyed. It's over for me.
Yeah, well, anyway, more about Jimmy's age later on, I'm sure. Let's go and have a look at the Red Bull Ring, though, shall we? Because this is a bit of a tricky beast at the best of times, and to sprinkle some more danger into the mix, we've put some wet weather. You can see there that we've got racing medium, soft, intermediate, and heavy wet tyres over a 28-lap race. What's going to happen here?
Who knows? I mean, it's a long race. Of course, we have dynamic weather here in Gran Turismo 7, so anything can happen. I wish they would tell us and make our life a bit easier as well. But for sure, definitely starting in those wet conditions, so only really one option there on that tyre selection set of the heavy wet Michelins.
Absolutely. Well, we caught up with a couple of our drivers a little bit earlier on to see what they make of the Red Bull Ring and where the places are that you can make up time over the course of this lap.
My favorite part of the track, especially thinking about the characteristics of the car and where is it better, is sector 2 and 3, because it's the fast corners, and my car, well, the Mazda, is where basically it has its strong point, which is corner speed. I'll definitely struggle in the acceleration zones and maybe at the top speed zones, because our car is not as powerful as others. But the strong point from the car is the corner speed, and it is where I will have to gain time.
Red Bull Ring is a track that looks way more simple than what it actually is, because it's a track that on every corner the track limits are very close and every mistake we do gets penalized a lot. The best strategy for us will be to be prepared for any kind of situation that we get, even if it's wet or dry. We need to be there with the right tire at the right time so we can maximize our possibilities.
Salute there from Nico Romero, like something you'd see on Red Dwarf, Arnold Rimmer doing a bit of that, you know? That was niche.
No
that was niche,
that,
all right. I tell you what, though, this circuit, you know, what we're expecting here tonight, it is going to be unpredictable, isn't it? Especially when you throw this weather into the mix, because no one knows how it's going to go. We don't know whether it's going to start dry, wet, intermediate. Who's going to do what on terms of strategies? Someone might go bold and take a risk.
Imagine you think you're a hero going for a big overtake into T3. You get onto the sippy part of a circuit, you go, oh bother, I'm not stopping. And you just go flying off. I mean, very possible to do here. We've seen it happen before in the past, of course, and real racing as well. But for me, this is one of the great circuits of racing. Long slipstream opportunities, big braking zones. Those things together make for good racing.
Oh bother, I'm not stopping. Normally it's something shorter and fruitier than that for you, isn't it? Anyway, let's have a look, shall we, at the Predict the Winner campaign, because don't forget that we are running this over the course of the Manufacturers' Cup and the Nations' Cup later on here tonight. And we've thrown the vote over to you. 36% of you reckon it's going to go the way of Team Lexus. I tell you what, starting where they are on the field, it's not out of the realms of possibility, given the weather and given the strategy calls that could be made.
Yeah, those 36% put out there, big skill issue right there. I mean, not looking good for you guys so far. If you picked Team Porsche with Hensei, maybe feeling a bit better about yourself right now, the 5% of you out there. But of course, still time to predict, still prizes to win, so get your predictions in as soon as possible.
Yeah, absolutely right. 2 million credits to be won in Gran Turismo 7 with our Predict the Winners campaign. And don't forget, of course, if you are watching the game on, watching the stream, rather, I should say, on Gran Turismo 7, then you can obviously have a chance to win a couple of cars. The Genesis VGT Gran Racer and also the Skoda Vision Gran Turismo car that we unveiled in Prague earlier on this year.
I like free things. I'm sure you guys like free things too. But yeah, stuff to win. Make sure you get involved as soon as you can.
Absolutely. Well, the competitors are ready to go then, lining themselves up on track ahead of this 28-lap race. The grand final of the Manufacturers' Cup about to begin. Tension is in the air. Who will be claiming the checkered flag here in Prague? Round 2 of the 2024 Gran Turismo World Series is about to get underway. The crowd are ready here in Prague and the drivers are ready out on the circuit as we get ready to go for a 28-lapper at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. Who will be claiming the checkered flag and those all-important points as we have our first look at the grid. Starting on pole position, it is Mohamed Badima in the Ferrari 458. Porsche represented by Benjamin Hengste from Hungary on the front row of the grid. Daniel Fenton heads row 2 with Mercedes-AMG and Kylian Drumont in the Subaru BRZ. Alongside row 3, Thomas Laboutelle in the BMW M6. And then next up it is Paul Ura in the Mazda RX Vision Gran Turismo concept. Then it's Jose Serrano, 7th on the grid ahead of Randy Roush in the Chevrolet Corvette C7. Nico Romero heads Genesis's charge. He lines up 9th position with Daniel Penco, the Spaniard, alongside him. Next up, it is Mateo Estevez in 11th place. And 12th and last on the grid will be Coque Lopez in the Lexus. Won last time out a few weeks ago, just to remind you. Now, as you can see, the weather conditions far from ideal. It is sopping wet out there. No choice for these drivers here, Jimmy, to start on the wet compound of tyre.
No, you have to do that, otherwise you'd just be completely gripless for the first couple of laps or so. But Badima out front in that Ferrari, feeling fast, obviously, as he said a bit earlier on. So if you're him, really, ideally, you want to just eyes forward and try and build as big a gap as you can whilst the car is feeling good. Of course, tyre wear on as well here. So easy to burn these wet tyres if it gets into difficult conditions. But I think it's going to be a fun race, this one, Tom.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, because, of course, it can dry out. There is that possibility with the dynamic weather. Will someone go on to the intermediate tyres? Will they make a gamble and go straight onto the dry compound tyres? We'll wait and see what is going to happen over the course of this 28-lap race. But round 2 of the 2024 Gran Turismo World Series is about to begin. We're ready to go racing here in Prague as Mohamed Badima and Ferrari will lead the field across the line. And we are underway then here at the Red Bull Ring as we head up towards the first corner. Badima, Hengste, then Fenton, Drumont, Laboutelle. Don't expect any rash moves in towards turn 1, out of turn 1, into turn 2, and then the heavy braking zone of turn 3 is where we should see drivers getting themselves in position for the first overtakes. You saw Fenton there running a little bit wide on the exit of turn 1. That's left him under attack already from Kylian Drumont in the Subaru as we head up the rise in towards turn 3. Badima's got the lead. Second place there for Hengste, looks pretty sure, but what about what's happening further behind? Drumont right on the back of Fenton. Don't think he was able to launch a move, but you got Laboutelle and Ura in position there side by side. 5th place for Laboutelle as he drags alongside and then past the Mazda and up through into 5th place.
Randy Roush in the background in the Chevrolet, going around the outside perhaps of Paul Ura, and Mazda who's looking to the inside of Laboutelle. Cars getting very close contact there between Hengste and Badima at the head of the field. Estevez there having an awful time, I think, spinning down at the at T4 there at the back of the pack, so bad to worse for him. But meanwhile, the mid-pack is everyone for themselves. Contact again, I think, this time between De Rouge and Drumont. These guys are fighting for their lives whilst racing each other out there. Horrible conditions to drive in these, but this really shows the talent of these drivers and it shows the strengths and weaknesses of the cars too, as Drumont just struggles to get on the throttle there out there in the Subaru. Fenton hangs on in 3rd for now.
Look at this, you can throw a blanket over these drivers. They're so close to one another from 3rd place back. Badima, meanwhile, has pulled out a 1.3 second advantage over Hengste on this first lap. Then the cork in the bottle is Daniel Fenton at the moment, the Mercedes driver who we ride on board with, and we're not even at the end of the first lap. Out of the final corner we go then. Is anybody going to think about a lunge in towards turn 1? You'll be brave if you think about doing that, because it could leave you under threat in towards turn 3. Drumont, though, decides that discretion is a better part of valour, looks for a half move up the inside, but eventually ducks back into the wheel tracks of the Mercedes. He's trying to line it up on the exit of turn 1 and into that braking zone of turn 3.
Yeah, that AMG is just a roadblock right now. No one can find a way around. On board now with Paul Ura in that Mazda, of course, highlighted by that rotary engine. Look in the mirror there in the bottom right-hand corner, you can just about see that BMW being pushing along Paul Ura. Laboutelle on the outside, they all try and break off line, just about managing to keep out of each other's way. De Rouge there, getting by Drumont. So De Rouge up into 4th place. Now Ura's following through as well. That Subaru really struggling on the straights here. Unfortunately, this is not a circuit. You're going to have a car that's slow in a straight line.
Yes, left him under attack here from Laboutelle. Oh, moves under braking there to Drumont and leaves no room for his countryman. Laboutelle's going to try and rough it around the outside. I don't think he had much choice in the matter, but he's turned it into an opportunity. He's got ahead of Drumont and he's almost side by side with Ura. Just has to back out of it again on the exit of that corner, and duck back into the wheel tracks, but that was very close and aggressive racing. Ura's a little bit wide. That's left the door open for Dumont to go through into 6th place, or 5th place possibly, but no, not for now. Dumont just sits there in 6th position, but all the while they're squabbling. Look at what's happening in front. Bedima, Engsay, all clearing off into the distance. They're nowhere to be seen.
It's hard to overstate how difficult this is. Just driving around in these conditions at this speed is impressive in itself. Whilst trying to race each other, this is where these guys earn their reputation. So the Boutelet now, we're focusing on him in the BMW P7 in the pack, and there's Dumont as well. A bit slow off the exit is Paul Ura. Dumont's now putting alongside Will. He has the Lexus to get by the Boutelet. He's going to push his fellow countryman through there, up into P5 and P6. Go BMW and Subaru. Up the inside goes Thomas the Boutelet. No, he thinks better of it for now. Still holding the place, but no, Paul Ura hanging on the outside somehow in that Mazda. Has to back out of it finally, but that was great to working together there by the Boutelet and Dumont, but maybe the stewards will have a look at that.
It's allowed Serrano an opportunity to go through up into 7th place there, so Ura has just lost out a little bit whilst they were going side by side into that braking zone of turn 3. I tell you what, I wince every time we go into there because it just takes one locked brake, and these drivers don't run ABS, so one snatch brake and you're going straight off to the scene of the crash.
I'm waiting for that one guy to just come flying across the inside of the picture there, out of control, wiping somebody out. Hopefully it won't happen, but of course it can happen. So still here on to lap 3 there. Bedima and Hensey, they're really not separated by much. Very, very quick in these wet conditions are the Ferrari and the Hensey. 3.5 seconds back is Fenton. So these guys seemingly the ones to beat at the moment.
Lap times in the high 138s for the two leaders. We expect the crossover time, by the way, to go on to intermediate times, about 137 there and thereabouts. You can see Bedima with a big old slide in that Ferrari 458 as he came through the right-hander. But that's the crossover time. Rain is still coming down as it stands for now, so just keep an eye on the weather conditions. If it starts to dry out, when the times get down into the 1:37s, that's when we should see drivers thinking about boxing for inters.
Yeah, I'd love to take a look at the weather radar, of course a feature in Gran Turismo 7 to see sort of what's coming and what's happening there, but wipers still on for now. Rain is still falling for now, so we'll keep an eye on that and see if things get any better. But going up to T1 again, Bedima stretching his legs a little bit, the gap now up to 1.2 seconds, but he seems a little bit weak through T1. That's where Hensey comes back at him. There's a replay. Here's what happened here between Jose Serrano and Labutte. They go down towards T4, heavy on the brakes, contact there. Oh, and off goes Serrano, he spins. Oh, what a shame there for Jose Serrano after such a strong showing at the Montreal round.
Yeah, a bit of a ham-fisted attempt there for the Spaniard, I'm afraid to say, as he went into the braking zone of turn 4. Labutte, we ride on board with him and Dumont, all out of shape there, and then contact spins round Dumont. Oh, Killian, what on earth is going on with your 2024 season? He made a mistake in the Nations Cup, if you remember, back in Montreal, and it goes from bad to worse for him. He must have walked under a stepladder or, I don't know, something along the lines of that, you know, to a black cat or something today, because it's just not working out at all.
I'd love to see a replay of that, but I think like Labutte was quite heavily involved in that incident there, but we'll comment on that when we see more. For now, and there you go, the stewards having a look at that. We have live stewards here at the event, straight into the action, straight into the investigation, and we'll get back to you as soon as we know more. But that does put, as you say, Killian Dumont at the back of the pack, and Coque Lopez will be happy with that because he's getting another place out of it, but not moving forward. Someone who is moving forward is Estevez for Honda, up to P7 right now after starting from the back of the grid. So great racing so far from Estevez. Can he continue?
We have a look at the weather radar in our commentary box, and there's a little bit of a break in the weather we can see coming along the way in a few moments' time. So if that does start to ease off ever so slightly, we'll keep an eye on things and see what happens. There is Nico Romero driving for Genesis. As I mentioned earlier on, Genesis podium for them in the World Finals at the back end of 2023 in Barcelona. Can they repeat that feat over the course of this year? Just to remind you, as we now see the weather radar, you can see there heavy rain at the moment, but it is going to start to break a little bit later on in this one. So if that does happen, or when that does happen, I should say, then we'll see drivers changing their strategy and thinking on the fly.
I love that we have that in the game. In real life, the weather radar is something you just don't like looking at, especially if you're at the Nürburgring. But anyway, here is a replay of what happened between Dumont and Labutte. So we're coming down to T4 there. A bit of contact on the way in. Is there something? No, he loses it on his own. No, he doesn't. He almost does. Yeah, and the contact there with Labutte just spins him around. But you can see all the way in, really struggling with the rear of that Subaru, sorry. So I think that maybe that car just not quite the right car to be in these conditions. But still he'll do well to come back from this Dumont, but back of the field for now.
Unfortunate there for Killian as he sits down at the back of the field in 12th position for for now. There is Ensei. Tell you what, he's keeping Bedima honest, actually, isn't he, over the course of this first few laps in both of their first races in the Gran Turismo World Series. They're driving like they've been here for a fair amount of time. You can see 4.2 seconds there and thereabouts over some parts of this lap that they put into Daniel Fenton, who sits in third place. You can see Labuschagne getting a 3-second penalty for that collision with Kylian Drumont. Well, we wondered if the stewards might have a look at it, and they have, and they've decided to hit Labuschagne with a 3-second penalty, which is going to drop him down to about 10th place there and thereabouts once he served it.
I mean, yeah, it was fair. He spun Drumont, ended his race pretty much, so yeah, penalty there I think is fair in that situation. So meanwhile, in the mid-back, Paul Euro will be the first person to gain from Labuschagne's penalty. You can see that 3 seconds above the top of his car there. As he comes to the penalty zone, he'll be forced to brake for 3 seconds, so you lose a lot more than that in reality. And then, of course, the time getting back up to speed again is massive, especially given around here a lot of high-speed acceleration zones. But on board with Paul Euro, looking a little bit flustered, I think, at the moment. Not looking like he's very comfy. That Mazda proving difficult in these conditions so far. Almost collects the back of the Labuschagne there and picks up his own penalty. But we've seen a lot of drivers doing that, just sort of veering off the corner, trying to avoid too much rotation, trying to get it all in one hit and accelerate in one straight line instead of accelerating with a bit of lock-on, because that's an easier way of just getting traction that way. Just
brought Estevez a little bit closer in that Honda there as well. That Honda's not been particularly fast, actually, so far this week, especially in these wet conditions. You can see Estevez struggling with the traction as he comes out of turn 4.
I mean, Estevez's lap times, Tom, if you look at it, he's matching the leader pretty much at the moment. So he's really quick as Estevez. So keep an eye on him. Well, we did say he'll come back through the field, didn't we? And here he comes now in that Honda, in P7. And I'd say at the rear engine cars, the mid-engine cars, having a bit of a better time at the moment than the front engine cars.
Yeah, a snap of oversteer there for Euros. You saw him just coming through that right-hander. His Labuschagne serving his penalty, moves off of the racing line. Such closing speed they have as Labuschagne, where's he going to emerge? About 7th place, a little bit higher up the order than I thought. Penko and Romero also under investigation for a collision as well. They're in 8th and 9th place, Romero and Penko respectively at the moment. Out of the final turn we go, and across the timeline. So it's all pretty quiet on the western front as it stands for now, but it's going to bubble up a little bit later. Where are we at in terms of lap times? We're still in the low 138s at the moment, so we're not close enough for a changeover. The rain is still falling down, but at a lighter intensity than it was. Let's have a look and see if we can work out what happened here with Romero and Penko into turn 4, downhill on the braking, Penko on the inside, bit of contact there with Romero. I don't think that cost them too much, really.
That's all right. It's racing, that one. That's right. I say that, and other stewards are going to say it isn't that. Well, no further action. There you go. Finally, I've got one right after all this time. It's taken 8 years, however long it's been. Oh, Lopez there, forgetting that it's the pedal on the left that slows you down, or you've got a clutch, I guess, but slows you down too. And back down to 12th place. He goes behind Kylian Drumont. Coque Lopez is struggling big time in that Lexus.
Yeah, I wonder if he's going to try and launch an attack immediately on Kylian Drumont and get himself ahead. Down into the braking zone we go, closes right up on the back of the Subaru, and it's just not working out at all here for Coque Lopez. He doesn't look comfortable. Look at the way he's driving, look at his driving position as well. He looks tense in his shoulders, doesn't he? You can see him fighting the car, scrabbling for grip and trying to find performance that just doesn't seem to be there for the Spaniards.
Yeah, it's important in wet conditions to sort of let the car move a little bit. If you're trying to put in these really big aggressive inputs, that's when the car has the biggest issue, and it looks like he's sliding through this midsection here. So we have to hope for Coque's sake anyway, the weather does lighten up a little bit. Again, our weather radar suggesting that the rain's still coming down pretty decently at the moment. So we've got a long way left in this race. Lap 8 of 28 as Bedima comes across to start lap 8. And here is a replay there of Coque Lopez. So this is going to be quite scary on board if you're Coque Lopez. You can hit the brake pedal. Nothing's happening. Got to get out of the way. Oh, and you can imagine just a feeling there of, am I about to wipe someone out? No? Okay, but I am now last.
Yeah, that would make you twitch like a rabbit's nose, wouldn't it? Unfortunate there for Coque Lopez, and just about managing to avoid contact into turn 3. Now Serrano versus Drumont. Drumont starting to come together in this race. 8th lap out of 28 we are on here in the Manufacturers' Cup Grand Final. Euro versus Estevez a bit further up the road. Estevez now finding that pace. He got ahead of Labuschagne a couple of laps ago. Now his next target is going to be the Spaniard. So out of turn 3 and into turn 4 could be the opportunity that the Honda driver is looking for as he makes his recovery through the field following that difficult qualifying. Side by side we run. Estevez is going to be on the outside into the downhill braking zone. There's a bit of hip and shoulder and a bit of contact. That's going to run Estevez a little bit wide, but can he find traction on the exit of the corner to get ahead of Euro? Side by side they go through into onto the next left-hander. Estevez is going to have track position here if he can just firm it on the inside, but has he got the grip there to get ahead of Jura? No, Jura sweeps around the outside and holds on to 5th place.
What an impressive drive so far by Estevez. This guy started in P11 and is up to P6 and challenging Paul Jura in P5. I think he's got the pace to get by, but Paul Jura, very experienced in Gran Turismo 7, just putting the car in the right places right now, but the pace isn't there for him. It's just a matter of time, I think.
Tremont just losing a position there to Jose Serrano for 10th position as well. On board we ride here with Thomas Laboutelet. Pole position for BMW back in Amsterdam. That'll seem like ever such a long time ago, no? There is a bit of contact, isn't there, going through that final corner. Estevez now under a bit of pressure. Meanwhile, Laboutelet versus Estevez as we come across the timing line to begin lap 9. Laboutelet with the inside line, with track position, with the grip under braking, but does he want to get ahead of Estevez, or does he want to leave himself open to the opportunity into turn 3? Estevez run to the curb on the outside. Laboutelet is going to try and pick up his slipstream here on the exit of turn 1 and then run it for a move surely on the inside into turn 3. The Frenchman closes up onto the back of the Argentine then. Estevez defends track position on the inside and just holds on to 6th place for now. So nice, clean, fair racing in the mid-pack here.
So the rain's getting a little bit lighter, but we've still got a heavy rain zone coming in there from the south, and the wind is blowing a north direction, so it's bringing that rain cell across. So it's not quite done in terms of rain, but already though, some of these guys searching for the water, it seems, and these wet tyres, they've been on since the start of the race. They're going to start to wear somewhat. But if you're Estevez right now, you're in a bit of a tricky situation because you're trying to overtake Paul Jura. Whenever you do that, you put yourself back into the clutches of the car behind Laboutelet, and we've seen him, he's elbows out all the way as Laboutelet in this race. So definitely one to watch out for, but Estevez needs to try and focus and try and put a car between him and that BMW behind.
Got to be careful as well. You don't want to squabble too much because look who's going to clear off into the distance. Paul Jura doesn't need a second invitation to build a bit more of a gap over those two drivers, and Estevez there wide on the exit. That could leave him under threat from Laboutelet. Maybe not into these last couple of corners, but perhaps across the timeline and into turn 1 again.
I was going to say, speaking of trailing off into the distance, the leaders now are 5 seconds ahead of the rest as Laboutelet dives up the inside of the last corner. Not usually a place to see an overtake there. Up into 6th place goes Laboutelet. So that was a nice move there, but these guys have been sort of bashing and crashing into each other a little bit, so we'll see if the stewards have anything to say about any of the racing. To me, it's all fair racing right now. Great move by Laboutelet, but now the question is, can he make up the time to Paul Jura in front? The gap now about 1.8 seconds, just about out of the slipstream range. It's going to be all power from that BMW, which we know has got plenty of as it bears down on the Mazda in front. But yeah, Badima and Hensei, first and second, 6.5 seconds ahead of Fenton for Mercedes in third. So it's looking good for Ferrari and Porsche right now.
Well, hugely impressive as well for Hensei to just stick it onto the coattails of Badima, not launching any moves, not getting himself into any trouble, just keeping himself there ready to try and pounce. Let's have a look here. Estevez, he just ran a little bit deep, didn't he? And then Laboutelet said, thanks very much. There's a tiny bit of contact out of that penultimate corner, into the final turn. Laboutelet up the inside and through into 6th position. Didn't need a second invitation there. His next target will be trying to close up onto the back of Paul Jura for 5th position. Meanwhile, back at the front, you've got Badima and Hensei still close to one another. This has been the story of the race. It is a little bit closer than it was last time around, so I wonder if Hensei wants to just try and lead the race at this point, maybe.
Might be a mistake from Badima as well. Of course, that gap is now down to only a 10th for a second, and that Hensei makes the mistake, gets onto the silly part of the circuit, recovers it well. But that would have been a nerve-wracking moment there for Benjamin Hensei and Team Porsche. The gap back up now to 6/10 of a second, much to the delight, I'm sure, of Mohamed Badima in front in that Ferrari. But we're seeing the pace. We're seeing the pace come through now for Hensei and Team Porsche. And that's going to be a wake-up call, I think, for Mohamed in front. He's going to be, okay, cool, right. This guy is quick behind me now. I need to focus. I can't be making silly mistakes and letting that gap come down again.
I tell you what, I can't remember the last time we saw a driver, though, come into the Gran Turismo World Series and just perform as well as Mohamed Badima has done, and also for Benjamin Hensei as well, actually, for that matter. These two have just been parachuted into this season, and it's like they've been here for years.
Yeah, they've done amazing so far, but the race is far from over. And to prove that, here are people squabbling for position in the midfield. Romero and Penko looking up the inside of that Genesis. Not going to get a good run off the corner there. Here comes Kylian Drumont in the Subaru trying to recover after a spin earlier on. But again, just hasn't quite got the legs in that thing. Any corner exit, any acceleration zone, it just goes backwards. It must be so frustrating. But that is the Manufacturers' Cup. Not all cars have the same strengths in the same places. And there's Drumont, big dive up the inside. Penko there also having contact with Romero in the Genesis, and there's still contact, nearly spinning out. Penko is Drummond. They all seem to somehow get out of the corner, but that was a bit of a mess down there.
That's the thing is, when these cars are driving on the limit, as they are in these conditions, you could push them around with your little finger, basically. They are just on the ragged edge of adhesion. You can see Penko has now lost out here to Jose Serrano, who's having something of an anonymous race, it must be said, in that Toyota. Let's have a look at the lap times. Where are we at in terms of that? The weather, it's still in the sort of mid-138s. Nothing really to write home about. Certainly not change over to intermediates time for the drivers, despite the fact the rain has definitely decreased in intensity. So we'll keep an eye on that over the next few laps or so and see how this circuit develops, whether the pace does start to pick up.
There'll be a couple of drivers out there really, I think, hoping for that penalty. Leboutillet given another 1 second penalty. Do you reckon that was for that little bump into the last corner? Because that would have unsettled Estevez, and basically you refer to it as a bump and run, which if you're driving a stock car is great. Here, not so much. So that may be for that. We'll come back to you when we can confirm that entirely. But another penalty for Leboutillet. He's costing himself here a good result.
Yeah, he's been in the wars a little bit over the course of this race, hasn't he? Let's be completely fair. We're still not quite at the halfway stage of this first race. There's plenty of action left to come. You can see Nico Romero there, just up ahead of Kylian Drummond. 8th, 9th, 10th then for Romero, Drummond and Serrano as it stands for now. Leboutillet there with that 1 second penalty. That's going to drop him close to the likes of Estevez and Romero, so they may fall into the distance of that, because it's not only the 1 second that you lose from the penalty, it's also the fact that you've got to get yourself back up to the same racing speed as the rest of the drivers. You can see he's right on the back, though, of Pol Ura as we head through this middle sector of the lap. Ura doesn't want Leboutillet to try and get himself involved in the action, because that's going to cost him time. You can see there, cue the Jaws music, Estevez, Romero and Drummond all not far away from this.
Meanwhile, Mia's over there signing autographs casually, but here we go then. Penalty being applied to Leboutillet in that BMW right now. Can Estevez make the most of it? It's going to have the overspeed a lot quicker, right onto the back of that BMW, but not quite close enough to make the move at that point. And I tell you what, Estevez will be ruined that. He really wants to get by Leboutillet. He had that pace, but actually saying that, since Leboutillet got past, he did manage to open up a little bit of a gap. So maybe the charge starting to wane a little bit there for Estevez in the Honda.
So across the timing line we go. Badima, Angsay and Fenton still your top three as it stands for now. Nose-tail racing here, though, in this mid-pack of this one. Keen to see what is going to happen here. You can see Drummond now on the recovery with Nico Romero just up at the sharp end of the field. You can see them also on the left-hand side of your screen. Drummond up at the top, Romero down at the bottom. Reverse of those in positions on the track at the moment as we go through the left-hander keep. This is turn 2 technically, and then this braking zone just after this is into turn 3, and where we've seen a few drivers making a bit of a meal of it, it has to be said. You can see Romero there really slow actually on the apex of the corner, allows Drummond to close right up onto the back of him.
Interesting strategy there for Drummond, taking a higher gear and just nailing it out of the corner and hoping for the best. Maybe better than trying to play with the throttle and having that wheel spin moment that we've seen so many times from these guys coming out with slow corners as we come through again now down to T4. And still rain coming down for these guys at the moment, so still having to deal with this, still having to deal with the conditions there, as Badima has actually just about spread the gap a little bit to Hensei up in the lead. You can see there are live audience there enjoying the racing as of now. Manufacturers Cup now, Nations Cup a little bit later on today, so lots of racing for you Gran Turismo fans at home watching. And there is our weather radar, and after I think this the last cell of heavier rain, I think it looks like we're starting to clear up a little bit. So we will see. Of course, the weather is moving all the time. Dynamic weather conditions here in GT7. So lots of possibilities still to come.
And speaking of those possibilities, Jimmy, for the likes of the Leboutillet, Estevez, who are a little bit further down the order, do you think they'll be a little bit more inclined to take that risk? As we see Drummond now getting close onto the back of Romero, not quite going for the move. But yeah, just go back to that point. Do you think that they might take a bit of a gamble? They've got less to lose.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the moment, if I was one of those guys, the moment I saw contact there, between Drummond and Romero, nothing seemed to come from it there, but just showing that braking performance of that Subaru. You see on the brakes, Drummond is a demon, but it doesn't matter. You can't do anything with it when he comes off the corner. But to finish my thought there, yeah, if you're one of these guys who may be trying to think, can I improve my race? The moment I saw my lap time coming down, I would come in for Inters straight away, maybe even one lap before, just try and call it before everyone else does.
Do a Jensen Button. Do you remember what he did in Australia 2010? He came off the intermediate tyres straight onto the slicks, went off on the next corner, and then managed to get enough heat to get those tyres working. That's a problem for later for these drivers to worry about. We are now at the halfway stage, though, of this race. Into turn 4 we go. Romero still in front of Drumont, as Serrano there in the background got a bit of a slip and a slide on as well.
Now, we've been singing the praises of Estevez in this race, but also Ryan Derouche up 4 places from his starting position. The second best of the front engine runners to Fenton, who has, I think, just sort of found his pace now, found his groove, and is actually starting to go back towards Hensey in front ever so slowly. It actually looks like the charge of Ben Hensey in the Porsche is starting to slow down a bit as Drumont goes up the inside of Romero at the S's there. They're now side by side coming up to this last couple of corners here. Drumont on the inside, Romero on the outside, but Romero able just to drive straight back past him again. That must be so frustrating if you're Kylian Drumont.
Bet. What a shame there for Drumont. He's doing nothing wrong at this moment. And look at the exit he's got out of the corner, pulls alongside Romero and easily gets ahead. But is that going to leave him vulnerable into the next heavy braking zone of turn 3? Side by side they go down the start-finish straight. Romero's going to go for the long sweeping line on the corner of turn 1 and try to use the traction on the exit. Gets a bit of a slip and slide on Drumont, pushed to the sausage curb on the outside, and again side by side they go. Romero on the inside, Drumont's on the outside, and Romero in the Genesis with greater straight line speed just powers past the Subaru. Nothing Drumont is able to do. Into the braking zone of turn 3, he closes it up once again, gets very deep on the brakes, tries the switchback on the inside, gets himself ahead. That might leave him an opportunity for Serrano to come into play as well.
That's what he needs. He needs that. He needs someone else in between him and Romero. Serrano dives up the inside in that Toyota, but Drumont, even still, that amazing exit, is still struggling to try and make the gap heavy on the brakes. Now, this is where Drumont's got to make the difference. He's got to be quick in this middle sector. If he can get free, I think we're going to see him pull up to the back of Labu today. He just needs to be on his own, and he's made it. Look at the difference in speed there as Serrano gathers it out from a slide mid-corner. 100 mile an hour plus slide, and these things are scary, I can tell you that for sure. But going for his middle sector, Drumont just disappearing now from Samara Romero as he is finally unleashed.
Romero was so wide out of turn 4, he was almost off into the car park at that point. He managed to get it back online and gather it all up, but it really could have cost him quite dearly indeed. He's now got to redo all of the hard work that he was trying to do on Serrano a few corners ago. In towards the penultimate turn we go. Lap time's now starting to creep into the 137s for the first time as well. Hensey and Fenton in the high 137s. The low 137s are where we're expecting that intermediate tyre crossover point to begin. So across the timeline we go. Jura and Labusle under investigation. Let's have a look here and see what happened. Jura's late on the race. This is down into turn 4-3, isn't it? And, yeah, up the inside. That allowed Estevez to go through.
I mean, he was there for a long time. He was alongside. I know he came from a long way back, but they were side by side, and Labusle still turned in. So I don't know if he got there. I think that's fair, but it doesn't matter. They're still going at it. Jura up the inside again, trying again, but Labusle will have the better traction on the outside. We think so anyway, but Jura actually managing to outpace, it seems, the BMW is wheel to wheel, side by side, coming down to the next corner. It's a downhill braking zone. You want to be on the outside really for the grip here, and Labusle there just a bit more comfortable on the brakes, able to get the move back past again and up back into 6th place.
I love the way that Jura's got the indicator on as if he's signalling that he's going to move over to the left-hand side of the circuit. Can he launch an attack here on Labusle into the next corner? No, not quite. Just sits in the wheel tracks of the BMW for the time being.
I think we're getting... Is that a dry line?
It's drier than it was,
it's drier
certainly.
than it was, wasn't it?
Look at them. Look at them using the outer parts of the circuit to try and cool those tyres down. They don't want to be on the normal racing line because there's no standing water on that part of the track. It can't cool the tyres down enough.
Yeah, it seems that they're really struggling right now. I think if I saw Hensey, I mean, the times are 37.8, 37.4 from Hensey. If I was someone on track right now and I was struggling, that's my right. Okay, I'm coming in. I'm putting those inters on, and I'm gonna chance it because the weather radar that we have, you guys can't see it right now. We have it here in our booth. We can see that there's a bit more rain coming, but it's really, really starting to dry out enough that these cars are now starting to move that water off the circuit and create a drying line. So really, as we come into lap 17 of this 28-lap race, it's all going to unfold and start again. Who's going to make that first gamble? Who's going to go to that intermediate compound tyre first? And who's going to reap the benefits of that?
So, who is going to roll the dice then? Let's see what happens. Surely at the end of this lap, some of the drivers that are a bit lower down, they've got to come in, they've got to take a gamble because it's their opportunity to try and use that pace advantage that they may have from switching onto the intermediate tyres. I don't think anyone's going to be quite as bold as to go onto the dry tyres, but if you look at the weather radar though here, Jimmy, there's not much rain on the horizon, not much on the forecast. Do you just chance it, stay out on the wet tyres for a little bit longer, then go onto the dry tyres at the first available opportunity and try and miss a pit stop? Because what are you going to lose, what, 10, 12, 14 seconds maybe from a pit stop?
Yeah, I think so, but I mean, you have to, surely. I mean, the difference in tyre and speed between the two tyres is pretty significant, so you really have to think about that. And yeah, again, looking at the timings, I mean, the worst person to be right now is Mohamed Badima, because you're out front, you're the one basically giving the info to everybody else, and this is where it gets really difficult. But if I was Coque Lopez, I'd be like, you know what, I'm coming in right now, why the hell not? I'm 26 seconds off the lead, make a gamble.
Yeah, well, he's got nothing to lose, hasn't he, Coque Lopez? And I tell you what, the gap for the race lead has come down a little bit. Yeah, let's see who has come into the pit lane at the end of this lap. We look at Labuse and Mateo Estevez in the Honda has come in for another set of tyres. Now, which way is he going to blink? Is he going to go onto intermediate tyres? Surely that's got to be where the sensible money is for the Honda driver. Or does he just gamble and go straight for the dry tyres? I don't think he'll be able to get the heat into them. Let's see which way the Argentine goes. Yep, it is onto the intermediate tyres then. So nicely done for Mateo Estevez in the Honda. Exits out of pit lane, and he is the first driver in the now drying conditions with 9.5 laps remaining to change over onto the intermediate tyres.
So now everyone is going to be watching Mateo Estevez and what his pace is like. You can see a little bit, of course, lap time and like when you're driving around here in these live events. So if Estevez now is starting to set purple lap times, purple sector time, you're thinking, right, okay, now is the time to come in, now is the time to switch to that compound of tyre. Someone else who might consider that, these guys, Dumont and Serrano, a bit further down the field than they would usually like to be, but we know these cars are strong in the dry conditions, and the track is starting to go that way. More importantly, Badima, Hensei, who are coming round to the last sector now, will they see that Estevez is coming? Will they go for that gamble and go into that intermediate compound tyres? The times now, we're starting to almost see 36s from the front, and we think the crossover is about a mid-37, so maybe it's time. Who knows? Let's see. They're coming around the last corner now. Badima comes in.
Yeah, 0.3 of a second separating those two drivers. Badima does come in then off of the wet tyres. He's going to surely go on to the intermediates. That releases Hensei into the lead. So Badima is the first driver to blink. He was the first driver to get there, of course, and he'll be feeling the conditions out. You can see the rain is still coming down, albeit in a lighter intensity. Surely it's got to be the intermediate tyre, and it is for Mohamed Badima then. So the Ferrari onto the intermediate tyres. He's the second driver to blink and go on to that quicker compound at this stage in the race.
Guys are fanning himself. He's feeling the pressure. He is. I mean, you say first driver to blink, the first driver at the head of the pack to go to those intermediates. He comes out right behind Ryan Darouche. So this is going to be interesting for him. Will he have the pace to be able to drive by Darouche, or will he be held up here? So you want to try and put yourself into a gap when you make a strategy call like this. But right now, he's behind Darouche. So coming out of this T3 here, this is a traction zone. Let's see the difference between the Ferrari and that Corvette, that Chevy Corvette in front. Looks like Badima's much faster on exit there, gaining a tenth of a second just on the exit. I think this is the right call. And you see Estevez and Penko coming in now also for that intermediate compound tyre. I think we'll see them all coming in now, Tom.
Yeah, this is the time when mistakes can be made, though. Cold tyres for Badima. He's going to spend a few corners getting them up to temperature, but he's doing a really good job. You can see a bit of an eyebrow twitch there as we look at him in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Ryan Darouche in front, and surely Darouche is going to come into the pit lane at the end of this lap. Surely the rest of the field have to. They can't sit out there on these wet tyres, and they've got to change over to the inters. Is anybody going to take a gamble, though? Stay on the wets, maybe go for the dries a little bit later on when the track gets even faster. It's a gamble. It could pay off.
It could, because you're then saving an entire pit stop. Pit stop's worth a lot of time around here, so we'll see. Watching Badima now, not quite making the inroads on Darouche as you think he would right now. So the tyre, wet tyre, is still okay for now, but now here it is in these sort of low speed corners, these medium speed corners. You can see Mohamed there thinking, oh, mate, have I made the right choice?
Look at the fastest sector times, though, coming in on the timing screen, Jimmy. You look at the likes of Mateo Estevez. Yeah, he was fastest overall in that first sector, second sector, by a second over the comparative wet runners in front of him. So he's now starting to get heat into the tyres, starting to find the pace, and surely it's going to be a matter of when and not if Badima finds his way through on the wet shod Darouche.
I mean, you can see the circuit now visibly starting to have drier patches and wetter patches on. You see Darouche taking the wet part and Badima trying to stay on the drier part and really using that intermediate compound tyre. Now, of course, the downside to that is you're going to just absolutely lunch that intermediate tyre on the drier compounded circuit. But that's what it's there for. It's there to be that crossover period. And again, on the traction zone, gained nearly half a second on Darush in front. And now, will Darush fight this or not? Because if he's staying out, that says to me he's going to go right immediately onto the slick. So Bedima, as he goes, easy pass there for Bedima. Not quite, though. The strength and the Corvette there. Big speed. Go on, sorry, Tom.
Look at the sunshine, though, in the distance. That's going to drive the track out even more because we're now starting to see the weather changing even more. Bedima right on the back here of Darush as we come through this left-hander. He's got more traction. He's got more grip. He's got the opportunity on the inside. Darush tries to defend the position as he's rightful to do so. Can Bedima firm it around the outside? It's risky going through there, but Bedima's got track position. He's got third place for the time being. He's going to have more grip under braking into the penultimate corner, and the former race leader Mohamed Bedima on the intermediate tyres is now up into third place.
But now he needs to catch Hensey and Fenton, who have both chosen not to pit here. So, as you say, Tom, they might just be roughing it out on that wet tyre and hoping for the best. We'll take a look at lap times. I mean, this is not really going to be a representative, I think, of the pace for Bedima at the moment. Still does a 34.7 whilst passing. Sorry, Tom?
Yeah, you can say Jura and Romero also into the pit lane then. Where are they going to go, though? That's the question. Are they going to go wets onto winters? They are. Yeah, I wondered if someone might just take a bit of a gamble and just go onto the dry tyres, but they're playing it safe at this stage.
He does.
Romero goes soft.
This could be a massive decision here. Nico Romero for Team Genesis decides to play a hand. He's going for those soft tyres. So let's see how he does. We'll watch his sector times eagerly and see how he gets on. But here he is out of the pit lane now. Can he get up to speed, or is it going to be just a mess? So he's going to be going straight over to that drying line. We'll see how he does, because the guys who've taken the intermediate tyres already will have to stop again and go to those softs. This could be everything for Romero and Genesis.
This is bold from Romero and for Genesis, but they've got nothing to lose. They weren't really featuring in the podium battle, and this could be an absolute masterstroke if the rain isn't going to come down. You can see the sunshine now bathing this circuit, and the dry line getting even more prominent. And of course, the likes of Bedima, he might have to firm it out on the intermediate tyres and move over to the wet part of the track, so it could go from being an advantage for a few laps into a disadvantage depending on what Romero does. But I tell you what, he is a brave man to go out there, take a gamble quite like this. We've got to keep a very close eye on the lap times. You can see, though, now a very prominent difference between the wets and the intermediates. Fenton and Bedima 0.7 of a second quicker for the Ferrari compared to the Mercedes in second and third.
I don't think it's enough, though, Tom. I don't think it's enough at this stage. Romero, so let's look at his second sector, is comparable to those on the wet tyres. A little bit faster, actually. The intermediate tyre, definitely the fastest tyre right now, but will it be Darush as well, opting to come in for that soft? The Boutlet and Serrano and Coca Lopez in. Are they all going to go for that soft compounded tyre? Did Mohamed Bedima blink a little bit too early?
Well, we'll see what happens here as Darush crawls his way out of the pit lane. He's going to have to be very careful off the racing line to not spin up those slick tyres and try and get some heat into them. Moves over to the drying line. That's going to leave him under attack here from Jura. So Darush now behind the intermediate shot Estevez. Now this will be a real test because Darush has had good pace. He's on the soft tyre. The two drivers sandwiching him at the moment, both on the intermediates. You'll expect Jura to be quicker. Look how much more grip he's got under braking, especially into turn 3. And out of this corner as Darush tries to get those softs up to operating temperature. Jura here is on the inside. Darush, I'm sure, is going to be a little bit defenceless at this stage, but he's not taking it lying down into the braking zone of turn 4. Has Jura got more grip under braking? He certainly has. He dives to the inside in the Mazda. Darush has got no answer for him at the moment, but there's still a few laps left. There's still 5.5 laps for this to come the way of Darush and Le Boutlet and the likes of Romero, Serrano and Lopez, all of whom have gone onto the dry tyres.
Isn't this crazy? We have every compounded tyre currently in the car. Hensey finally opting to pit in. He'll go surely to the soft tyre. There's no other option at this point for him. The track is still drying, nothing on the weather radar coming in. Fenton opting to stay out again. This is going to promote Bedima back up into yet a soft there for Hensey. So this is going to be a crazy finish. We're going to have to check the gaps once we get them go through the sectors. But right now, Bedima 1.7 off the lead. Hensey back out on that soft compounded tyre. Where does he come out? Kylian Dumont, who's not pitted, is still in P4 at the moment, just behind this battle. And the gap is about 10 seconds between Fenton, the leading car, and Hensey, who's just come out of the pit on the softs.
So 5 laps left of this race. This is going to be the longest 5 laps of Bedima's life. He has got to drive so carefully to keep those intermediate tyres in the right operating window, depending on if those soft tyres that a lot of other drivers are on, the likes of Hengse, etc., are going to be able to try and close up.
So I've checked the timings. Romero is the fastest man on circuit right now on those soft tyres. The soft tyre is a tyre to be on.
Look at Darush on the inside of Jura then. Soft tyre there for Darush. He's got some heat into it after just 1 lap. He now deposes the Mazda down into 7th place, and his next target is going to be Matteo Estevez. He's going to drive by him like he's standing still.
But importantly, is there enough time? Is there enough time left? There's about 6 laps left here. You need at least a second lap plus the overtake for Hengse. He's the one we're watching right now in P3 to try and catch Fenton and Bedima. So right now, Estevez, Darush and Jura, all of them, Darush on the soft tyre, Estevez and Jura on the intermediate tyre. For this middle sector, you can see Darush just hasn't quite got the speed. Jura can go around the outside, but as soon as he hooks into that dry tarmac, that Chevrolet just absolutely takes off. Fenton coming in too late for Fenton. He's really going to lose out here, I think.
Yeah, I think you could be right. Could possibly cost him a podium here as we look at this battle. 3 drivers all squabbling for position on 3 different compounds of tyre as well. Darush then on the soft, Jura and Estevez on the intermediate tyres. Through the final corner we go. Darush with more traction, more speed underneath him. He's going to out-drag Jura for the time being as we come down this start-finish straight, though. Jura moves onto the wet part of the circuit to try and cool those intermediate tyres down. Estevez also following suit as well. Keep an eye out for Laboutelet, who's on the soft tyres in the BMW. He could be a real cork in the bottle at the moment, and he could power past the likes of Estevez and Jura. So at the front, we've got a 9.5 second gap here. Bedima, he can't pit again. He can't afford to. He's not got the time in his pocket on those intermediate tyres. He's got to run this to the end of the race as we go side by side here between Estevez and Laboutelet for 7th place, and Laboutelet on the soft tyres, more grip under braking, and 7th place is his for the taking into turn 3.
33.7, last lap for Bedima, our leader. Laboutelet on the soft tyres in P7 does a 31.4. That's 2 seconds a lap faster. There is enough time for Hengse to catch Bedima here with 5.5 laps there, 4.5 laps, left of this race in Prague, the grand final, on board with Laboutelet on that soft tyre, trying to find his way around Pole. Jura should be easily said and done. It goes round the outside, up he goes.
Hengse has just gone 0.7 of a second faster in the middle sector than Bedima on this 1 lap alone. That is an absolute meteoric amount of time for Hengse. Jimmy's rubbing his hands together with glee because this is setting up an absolute treat into the final stage of this one, but no tail action for 4th place. Could possibly be the final place on the podium because look at Drummond, he's on the wet tyres. They are not the compound to be on at the moment, and he is going to be a sitting duck compared to the soft shot Fenton, Laboutelet and Darush behind him, and Drummond is surely going to be losing out in a space of a few hundred metres as we head in towards the braking zone of turn 1.
This is amazing racing. 3rd, 4th and 5th all vying for position, going into T1 onto lap 25. Fenton up the inside maybe of Drummond. No, he's there, the only guy out there right now on the wet tyre, trying to make it work, trying something different, but he's not got the traction. Here comes Laboutelet, here comes Fenton, they're side by side, coming up now towards T2 and T3. Laboutelet almost pushing Drummond. We've seen that. Darush, a 5th place, and look at the speed of the Corvette. To the inside goes Darush. Oh, it's contact. Fenton's gone.
Fenton's gone. He's straight off onto the outside of the track. Drummond with nothing going as well. No grip for him on the wet shod Subaru, and unfortunately for Daniel Fenton, he's put in a brilliant race in his debut event, and it all comes to nothing sadly for him. Meanwhile, at the sharp end, the gap up to nearly 10 seconds as we see Jura versus Drummond side by side. This will be easy for Jura because he'll have more grip under braking on the intermediate tyres, but Hengse made a mistake on that last lap. He was quickest overall in the 2nd sector, but the 3rd sector he must have made an error because he was about a second slower than Bedima last time around, and that could be the catalyst which may cost him a chance of victory.
But did you see Ryan Darush there, Tom? He went from, I think, 6th or 7th to 3rd in 1 corner. Amazing run there. However, the stewards, not so happy about that. I wouldn't be either if I was Fenton. Here's a replay. Look at Darush. He's in 6th place right now. Super close, makes the most, goes around the outside of the Laboutelet, goes around the inside of Fenton, breaks into the contact, hits through. Oh, this is all messy. I think, you know what I think happened? I think that there was a bit of contact. I think Fenton braked on the wet part, on the slicks.
You could argue,
like it.
Well, you could argue that Darush hit the back of Drummond. Maybe that upset the balance of of Hengsei's car. Either way, well, the stewards have got more angles. Let's have another look at it later on and see if we can pick the bones out of it. Meanwhile, Darouche versus Labusle then. 2 soft combat of tyres. This is the final battle for the final podium place and, of course, all-important World Series points over the course of this season as well. So this doesn't just mean a matter of pride, it means a matter of their championship position. Meanwhile, at the sharp end, I think Badima is going to have enough left in his pocket as it stands for now. 8 seconds the gap he has got over Hengsei. If Hengsei hadn't made that mistake a couple of laps ago, he could be in with a bit more of a shout. But at the time being, I don't know.
We'll see, Tom. Fastest lap so far from Craig Lopez is a 30.5. Fastest lap from Badima is a 33.5. That's 3 seconds of that faster. There is still time for Hengsei to get there. They're booted out the inside. Darouche makes a mistake, gets onto the wet part of the circuit. The slicks cannot deal with the water, and he slides out there. And Labusle, after hitting pretty much everyone in this race so far, up to P3. Will he stay there? Stewards' inquiry ongoing at the moment. But Hengsei, that is the battle we need to keep an eye on. There's 6.6 seconds, the last lap there. There is Badima. Right now, you can't see Hengsei. So right now, it's in good, okay. If I want to just run my laps, he's got 2 laps at the line left here, pulling over onto that wet part of the circuit to try and cool down his engines. Look at the time, Tom, 34.2. He's losing time. Most tyres are starting to fall apart. What is Hensei's time? 31.7, 3 seconds faster. It's still on.
It's game on. You're absolutely right. The track is getting faster and faster over the course of this one. Badima, 5.6 seconds, the advantage he has over Hengsei, but he is just going to be hemorrhaging time. You can see him there moving over, trying to keep those inters cool. But is it all going to be in vain? Look at that in the background. You can see Hengsei in the Porsche. Could it be game on? And now Badima's struggling to slow the car down into turn 3. This is the pressure really getting to Mohamed Badima. Hengsei there, meanwhile, he's on the opportune compound of tyre at the right moment in this race, but he has got 5.5 seconds of a gap to close up onto the back within a lap and a half.
So we need to see a gap of 3 seconds or less realistically for Hengsei to have a go on the last lap. But that's 3 seconds plus the overtake, which, to be fair, should be fairly easy. But there's only one dry line there. If you can defend that dry line, there's no way these soft tyres can deal with that water. The moment they go offline, as we saw with Ray and Darouche just in the last lap, the car, you're just a passenger. But look how much faster the progression there, from being a second lap slower on lap 24 to being 3 seconds lap faster on lap 26. And Badima now comes to the last sector. It is going to be so close to the line.
One locked brake, one snatched wheel, one run off of the normal racing line. That could be curtains then for Benjamin Hengsei. No further action between Darouche Trumont and Daniel Fenton. A racing incident then, it is deemed for that. Meanwhile, the battle for the race lead is well and truly on as we begin the final lap. Mohamed Badima for Ferrari on the intermediate tyres. Benjamin Hengsei on the soft compound of tyre. We come across the timing line. 3 seconds is the gap between these top two. It is winner takes all stakes and 6 points in the World Series up for grabs.
The way it's going to be right now is Hengsei is going to catch Badima right at the end of the last lap. Badima will know that Hengsei is coming. He'll have one eye in the mirror, but he needs to focus forward if he wants to take this for Ferrari. This will be by far Ferrari's best result here in the Manufacturers' Cup if he can just hang on for half a lap more. But look, the gap now down to 2 seconds.
Crucially though for Hengsei and for Badima, Hengsei is out of slipstream range at this point. He's not close enough to launch an attack at the moment. He'll be closed up right in this middle section. This is going to be a real Achilles heel for the intermediate shot Ferrari through these medium speed left-handers here.
Yeah, this is where the Ferrari is going to struggle the most. This is where Hengsei can close the gap. 1.5 seconds now is the gap between Ferrari and Porsche. Who will be victorious here in Prague? Only a few more corners left. Can Badima hang on?
Labusle and Darouche under investigation. Darouche is down to 9th place. There's clearly something's gone on between those two drivers. Badima driving. He's got a few corners remaining, but the gap is now under a second, and Hengsei there can sniff the opportunity of victory. It's within his grasp. Badima moves over off the racing line. There's 2 corners now remaining. It's Ferrari versus Porsche. It's Badima versus Hengsei. It's winner takes all stakes. Badima goes to defend the final corner. Hengsei goes for the move on the outside. It's a drag to the line in the Manufacturers' Cup. Is it Badima and Ferrari? Is it Hengsei and Porsche? Badima has done it! Fantastic! Mohamed Badima wins for Ferrari in Prague in the Manufacturers' Cup Grand Final from Benjamin Hengsei and Thomas Labusle. I tell you what, a longer final lap any other circuit and Badima would have lost the racing lead.
0.0092 of a second separating Ferrari and Porsche at the end. What a drive from Mohamed Badima. What a debut there, taking Ferrari to the top step of the podium for the first time ever in the Manufacturers' Cup. But what a drive also from Benjamin Hensey. Again, first time here at a World Series event, performing at that level, almost taking the win for Porsche. But more importantly, another second place for Team Porsche. Looking good for those guys in the standings. We'll get those to you very shortly. But can't take anything away from Mohamed Badima. Imagine that feeling, knowing you're on the wrong tyre, seeing that Porsche coming up behind quickly, and you can see the audience there. They enjoyed that almost as much as we did.
Let's go and catch up then with our race winner, Mohamed Badima. His first ever event. He's down on the stage talking to Jules.
Oh, my goodness. I'm sorry. First things first, are you a hustler? You can't just, like, come in all fresh and then just walk away with victory. What's going on?
It wasn't easy, to be fair. It wasn't easy, as you can tell. But no, it feels unreal. I feel like I'm dreaming, to be honest.
I mean, were you worried? Because obviously, you know, you're on the intermediates towards the end. You could definitely feel the pressure coming from behind. Was there a point where you're like, was this the right choice?
Around the last 4 laps, I would say. In the second to last corner, I don't know if anyone's noticed, but the rear end started to step out in 4th gear. So I was like, oh, if I go down too aggressive, I might lose it. So I just thought, play it safe. And I could see the delta that I was being gained on each lap, a second and a half.
We could see it. We could see it. Like, how amazing was that final bit of the race? I mean, that was crazy, completely crazy. How did you manage to stay so focused? Because, you know, this is your first time being here. It's a lot of pressure. You know, there's got a massive audience here. And, you know, a lot of people keep it together. And then, you know, on the final couple of laps, just the pressure gets... How did you keep it together?
I just thought about what's the possibility if I won. So as I was leading in the last few laps, I thought to myself, keep it together. Even if the worst case scenario, get a P2, I could see we still had quite a gap to everyone behind. So I thought, play it safe, worst case scenario, podium. So just thought, take it easy.
Worst case scenario, podium. If only my life was that exciting. This guy, this is his first time ever here. He just walked away with it. Let's give him a big round of applause. And we'll throw it back to Tom and Jimmy. That was...
My goodness me, I tell you what, Mohamed Badima, I'm shaking like that after that one. Penny for the thoughts of him, but he just soaked it up like a sponge.
Yeah, I mean, what an impressive drive. I mean, I can tell you that I would have definitely just fallen off at that point, having that pressure there, knowing you're on that wrong tyre. But what a mature drive, you know. Didn't second-guess his decision, made the decision early and just stuck with it. And we saw more mature drivers, Coque Lopez, we saw Kylian Drummond struggle with that decision. And he comes in, first time, bam, easy, completed it, mate. 100% win ratio.
Impressive, isn't it? Let's have a look at some highlights from that crazy Manufacturers' Cup race then. So, well, it all started off in wet conditions, and we saw Mohamed Badima and Benjamin Hensey kicking off into the distance. Meanwhile, further back, there was a bit of a barroom brawl going on up and down the field. We saw Jose Serrano making a mistake going off the circuit down at turn 4, and we saw some fantastic overtaking further down the field as well. The likes of Paul Ura, Thomas Labousselet, Rand Derouche, all very close to one another. We also saw Kylian Drummond, former champion in the Manufacturers' Cup, let's not forget, struggling in that Subaru BRZ.
Yeah, such a difficult race, such difficult conditions. Here was that spin there for Drummond. Helped out a little bit, the stewards decided by his fellow countryman Thomas Labousselet there. So out he goes, and see there, not happy with that. Who would be? But here was Labousselet coming back through the field there, up to the back of Estevez. Again, more contact there. Labousselet hit just about everything in that race, Tom.
He certainly did, yeah. He was in the wars, wasn't he, Thomas Labousselet? And he was even under investigation at the closing stages of that race for a matter as well. This is the moment with Paul Ura and a collision, which fortunately was deemed a race against him, but it did allow Mateo Estevez to go through and up into 5th position. Meanwhile, the race then began to dry out. Badima went on to the intermediate compound of tyres as Fenton just stayed out that a little bit too late and cost himself and Mercedes an opportunity of a podium, sadly, as well, with this incident not helping matters. Contact with Derouche, Drummond and Fenton sending him straight off to the scene of the crash. And you can see the frustration for there. But look at this, the final lap, the final corner, intermediate tyres on the Ferrari, soft tyres on the Porsche. Mohamed Badima in his first ever Gran Turismo World Series event, taking victory. And you can see the release of emotion for the British driver. Let's see confirmation of those results. 6 points for Badima and 4 Ferrari. Hensey continuing Porsche's charge. That's 2 podiums in 2 rounds.
Yeah, really impressive for Porsche. Less than a tenth per second. Mad that. And Labousselet, despite, again, being in the wars, manages managed to bring home P3 for BMW, so an impressive result there for him. I guess I say commiserations to people like Ray and DeVrouche. It's a great race, undone by one mistake. Same with Kylian Drummond as well, and of course Fenton there for AMG, getting on that wet stuff and just spinning. So here's what that does there to the points rankings. Porsche with that second place go up into the lead past Team Lexus, who are now down second. Ferrari from nowhere now up to P3. So just go to show you, all still to play for as we go into round 3 at Tokyo.
Yeah, still very much up for grabs, did you say? And Porsche, that just proves how much consistency matters over the course of a championship. I know we're only 2 rounds in, it's still very early days, but they've had 2 podiums. They've not stood in the top step, but they're now leading by 2 points.
Yeah, there's no point winning and then coming last, winning, coming last. Winning a championship is always being in the fight, always picking up points. Not maybe always the win, which of course they're all chasing for, but second places like that are still going to put them in that contention there. So for the second and the third so far, and there they are, leading the series where they haven't won anything. So go show consistency important.
Certainly is. Well, don't forget, of course, that the Michelin driver of the day has to be announced. Is it Mohamed Badima? Is it Benjamin Hengse? Is it Thomas Leboutelet? Tell us who you think it is over the course of this Manufacturers' Cup race weekend so far, because, well, all 3 of those drivers put in pretty stonking performances, but Mohamed Badima, for me, has to be the standout. Doesn't mean that you have to vote that way, of course, at home. Or you indeed, Jimmy Broadbent.
British bias shaking my damn head, Tom Brooks. How dare... No, I mean, yeah, I mean, you can't go by that. It was an amazing debut for Hensei too. I think he did super well. I mean, maybe a little bit almost overlooked despite being right there at the end, to wrestle that Porsche around and many times be within striking distance. We didn't quite see why he couldn't quite get there though. I think there was a couple of opportunities where he could have passed, taken that lead, set the pace, but he wasn't quite able to get by that Ferrari. But Leboutelet, I mean, if you're looking for, best boxer of the series, I think maybe you vote for him, but who knows?
Well, gloves are off for Leboutelet as we head in towards the final few rounds of the season. Yeah, don't forget, of course, that the podium celebrations will be underway in a few moments' time for our drivers here in Prague as well. So we're looking forward to the celebrations beginning. But as you say, Hengse there, one more corner, and that race win would have been his, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's literally, the strategies diverged right to that point there. And that was won at the end by Mohamed's line into the last corner. Just slightly offline, did not give him opportunity to use that dry line to pass. So if you're going to go round, you've got to use that wet track. And of course, that slick tyre just couldn't quite handle that. But as you say, Tom, one more lap, that would have been done. Would have won by 3 seconds. Yeah,
amazing performances in the Manufacturers' Cup. And, huge congratulations also to the likes of, Thomas Leboutelet, like you say, in the wars, but managing to get a podium, despite the fact that he played bumper cars for some of that race. Yeah, it's not bad.
The speed was there. And I think, speaking from experience, when you're a bit quicker than someone in front of you, you think, no, I'm going to make that move, I'm going to make it stick. That doesn't entitle you to drive through somebody. And I think that this will be a bit of a learning opportunity for Thomas Leboutelet. It's not his first time here. He's been here multiple times in various different manufacturers. First time, I think, for BMW. But still, yeah, third place is not a bad result for them, but the way it happened, he'll want to go back and, I think, review that race privately.
Well, a chance for him to do that if they get through, of course, into the World Final, or when they get through into the World Finals, rather, and if they're in with a chance of the championship, they'll need to do that because consistency, especially with your teammates as we head to Amsterdam, is going to be pretty important, I dare say so. And don't forget, of course, if you have enjoyed the Manufacturers' Cup, we're going again for the Nations Cup very, very soon. What are we going live at? I don't even know, to be honest with you. Time is just an abstract construct at this time, particularly, but looking forward to the Nations Cup action beginning a little bit later on. All the details down below, so just keep an eye on when we are ready to go live for that one. Anyway, it is now time for the Manufacturers' Cup podium. Let's begin the celebrations. Drivers making their way then onto the podium. Please give it up. Third place for Thomas Leboutelet for Team BMW. Second place for Benjamin Hengse, the Hungarian driver. He represents Team Porsche. And what a performance from the Briton, Mohamed Badima, representing Team Ferrari. He wins the Manufacturers' Cup here in the Czech Republic. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding if you're able for the national anthem. The national anthem of Italy plays out for our winning manufacturer, Ferrari, here for the Gran Turismo World Series in the Manufacturers' Cup. Mohamed Badima claiming top honours for the Italian marque. And now time for the awards to be presented. Third place trophy will be presented by Jan Gierzinski, the senior editorial editor for PlayStation Czech Republic, and it is awarded to Team BMW and to Thomas Laboutelet. The second place trophy will be presented by Belma Nadarajevic, the Chief Marketing Officer of Fanatec. And it is awarded to Team Porsche and to Benjamin Hengse. And the winner's trophy is presented by Gran Turismo series producer Kazunori Yamauchi. And it is, of course, awarded to Team Ferrari and the Briton, Mohamed Badima! Celebrations then well underway here in the Czech Republic for Mohamed Badima and for Ferrari, for Benjamin Hengse, and also for Thomas Laboutelet. Just amazing performances from all three drivers.
Yeah, how must that feel for Mohamed? His first event here, already on the top step, already over a trophy he can barely carry. You know, amazing result for them. And for Ferrari, too, we said before, Ferrari has never really had a result like this year, so to come in, take that win, statement of intent, I think.
And also for Team Porsche as well, for Benjamin Hengse, also his first ever World Series event, and now Porsche catapulted to the top of the leaderboard. And of course, the Manufacturers' Cup action continues when we head to Tokyo later on this year. Have a look at this and find out what it's all about.
Fancy joining us for round 3 of the World Series? It's going to be taking place in Tokyo, Japan on the 28th of September. Inside the state-of-the-art Milano-za Theatre in a Kabukicho Tower in Shinjuku. Gold tickets are on sale right now, but if Tokyo is a little bit far away, you can't sneak away from work. Don't forget you can join us on our YouTube and Twitch channels, on the Gran Turismo website, and even through your GT7 game. So there's no excuse for not seeing the best Gran Turismo racers in the world battle it out in Japan. We'll see you there.
I mean, it's not often that I don't know what to say, but my goodness, that was... I can't believe it. It was at the beginning. I was like, "What a wonderful story! Imagine him winning. Just imagine it." And then he just went and did it.
One of those races that we're going to remember for a long time, I think. I mean, what a finish there, decided by literally 1 moment's notice in the pit stop. And I think that to have a race decided by a 1/10 of a second here in the greatest series in esports, I think just goes to show how competitive it is here for sure.
I mean, 2 more meters of track, and it wouldn't have been the same story, you know.
Yeah, exactly that. And, you know, it's the stuff of fairy tales, things like that. You don't see often a driver coming into his first ever World Series event and going and trouncing the competition like he's been here for years. It's just amazing from him and also from Benjamin Hengse, both of those two making their debuts and finishing in the top 2.
Yeah, unfortunately for obviously Daniel Fenton, that was a bit unlucky, but you know. That's
life. That's
exactly.
racing, right?
Someone wins, someone loses. But of course, we're going to be back very, very soon with the Nations Cup, so don't go anywhere. There's going to be some incredible action from all of that. I mean, I don't know if I can, honestly, I don't know if I can take any more, Jimmy. It was a bit too much. I don't want to have a bit of a sit down and a biscuit and a cup of tea, which feels very British.
That is the most British thing I think you've ever said, to be honest with you. But, you know, I'm looking forward to the Nations Cup. I mean, it's half as exciting as that Manufacturers' Cup race was. We're in for an absolute treat, aren't we?
I think so. Are you excited? Come on, Jimmy.
I mean, always. always. How can I not be?
I mean, you are always excited, to be fair. Well, look, it's been an absolute pleasure to bring the Manufacturers' Cup to you from here. And as you can see, my goodness, what a lot of racing we have. It's fantastic. Stick around. We've got a little bit of a break. I'm having a cup of tea and a biscuit. So are they. You do the same. And then we'll see you back here for the Nations Cup at 7:15.
PlayStation